Nigeria is richly endowed with good climatic conditions for rice production and the market for the commodities consumption. About 7.9 million tons of the commodity is consumed in the country on an annual basis, but local production falls below demand. Data shows that this crop generates income for local farmers than any other cash crop in the country. Average yields per hectare is between 7 to 8 tons. Several factors limit rice production in Nigeria. They include inadequate pesticide use, post-harvest handling, processing and marketing, as well as soil nitrogen deficiency, which is a major setback to rice production in Nigeria. Nitrogen is difficult to retain as a result of floods and flowing water. The inability of subsistence farmers who farm with nitrogen-deficient soils to buy fertilizers and address this challenge is a problem, and even when they do, yields are still below expected output.
The conventional rice varieties need a lot of fertilizer to perform well during the farming season and give me a bountiful harvest. I spend a lot of money on fertilizers, and this affects my profit when I sell my harvested rice in the market. I spend a lot of money buying fertilizers for my rice. Without fertilizers, my yields will be too low. The money I use for the fertilizers is much, and most times I can only afford to buy very little fertilizer, and this affects my yields.
Nitrogen is the most important nutrient input needed for the production of rice, and the average fertilizer used in Nigeria is far below crop requirement for sustainable production.
Of local farmers today, they hardly embark on these improved varieties for the reason that they are always nitrogen demanding. The farmers prefer to crop a variety that, even though if he doesn't have money to buy fertilizer, at the end of the day, you have a good harvest. So this nitrogen use efficiency we are trying to develop now, on that low level of nitrogen application, you still have your maximum yield potential from that same variety, as compared to the way it was before the gene was transferred into it.
Okay. Scientists are now offering an even bigger solution to the country's rice production challenges. It is the nitrogen use, water efficient and salt tolerant rice, also known as the newest rice. This particular variety is currently undergoing confined field trials at the National Cereals Research Institute in Badegi, Niger State, North Central Nigeria.
This rice, there is transgenic material. We are trying to improve them by inserting these 3 genes, so that the product will be having the 3 genes at a time, combined with the initial potential the stock variety is having, that is high yielding, the gene of salt tolerance, nitrogen use efficiency, and also drought tolerance. In Nigeria, these 3 major stresses, they are a great menace to rice production because it limits yield. Inherently, these varieties hardly give 2 metric tons per hectare. But our aim of developing these varieties is that at the end of the day, we want to achieve about 8 metric tons per hectare if it is developed and released in Nigeria. I know at the end of the day, the farmers will be very, very happy because they will be having a bumper harvest from their field.
This is a rice, a variety of rice called Nerica, that is upland rice that has been worked on conventionally. It has been bred conventionally. Is one of the most preferred variety in West Africa. Acadia Bioscience from Canada, in collaboration with USAID and African Rice, now partnering with our institute, NC Harai, are trying to solve three major agricultural challenges that our farmers are facing. One, our farmers put a lot of income into production, which is not favoring them. Two, survey has shown that most of our soil in West African countries are too saline. They are suffering from too much salinity, which does not augur well for rice production, because any soil that is highly saline militate against the uptake of nutrient and even the water intake, and that eventually affect the performance of that particular crop. Thirdly, with the current climatic challenge we are having, irregular rain onset and offset, most of the times our seasons are faced with drought. So after the farmers have put much in production of rice, at the end, when we run into a drought or shortage of water, no profits.
The nitrogen use water efficient and salt tolerant rice, also known as the newest rice, is an enhanced variety with 3 genes that improve nitrogen uptake, allows for more efficient water use, and addresses issues of soil salinity.
The newest rice project is a follow-up on the Nerika rice variety and was launched in 2008. It is a cooperation of development organizations like the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, public research institutions like the International Center for Tropical Agriculture, and private organizations to develop farmer-preferred and locally adaptable, genetically improved African varieties with enhanced agronomic traits. The newest rice project is coordinated in Nigeria by the African Agricultural Technology Foundation, ATF.
You can see some difference at different nitrogen levels. There are 4 treatments. One is 0 nitrogen, you've not applied any nitrogen to it. The other one is 30%. The third treatment is 60%. And the fourth treatment is 90%. Somehow looking at it visually and across all the events, you could see some variations. But by the time we harvest and take data, we'll be able to analyze and come up with a concrete scientific answer.
This project targets helping Nigerian rice farmers address the challenge of nitrogen deficiency and fertilizer use for better productivity.
The conventional one was not carrying these 3 genes. What we saw there was just, it is high yielding. There is Nerika 4. We transformed this Nerika 4. So during the experiment, we are evaluating the event alongside with the conventional Nerika 4. What we are trying to insert in these events now is the gene that Nerika 4 lacks. That is gene for submergence, genes for drought tolerance, genes for salt tolerance, and nitrogen use efficiency. So at the end of the day, if we're able to develop this transgenic material, it will be having these 3 advantages over the existing Nerika 4. Meanwhile, the yield will definitely appreciate better than the way it was before, because these 3 genes will also improve the yield. That is why I was telling you that initially this Nerika 4 was giving us roughly about 3 metric tons per hectare. Our expectation is that after these 3 genes has been stacked into these events, we are expecting to have about 6 to 7 metric tons per hectare. So you can now see a yield advantage of about 50 to 60%.
Results from this field trial have showed increased yields under reduced nitrogen fertilizer regimes.
because of the inputs our farmers put into the production affect the cost after the production. This nitrogen use efficient will help us that, because by that time farmers will be with little or no fertilizer will produce rice with a commensurable and appreciable yield, and that will test on the price of the rice in the market. So one of the major essence of this project is to look into the farmer's pocket, spend less and get bumper harvest. That is the essence of the nitrogen use efficient development in the rice.
Presently we have two of our events that have picked up the gene. Well adapted combined with a good yield. We have event 9 and event 12. So presently we are trying to go for regulatory trial. When we plant the conventional Nerica lines alongside with the transgenic materials, that is these newest lines, we don't observe any differences. Vegetatively, they look very perfectly the same. You can't see any change in the leaves. The clearing ability remain the same thing. At reproductive phase, they all flower at the same time. And even the grain quality looks very, very similar. You hardly differentiate between the events and the conventional varieties.
Local farmers who have participated in these confined field trials commend the newest rice variety. They look forward to planting its seed soon so they can have better yields and higher incomes.
This trial,
The rice here, they put little fertilizer and it gives yield that even passes the one that we're having where we are applying much fertilizer. I'm very, very eager. I want quickly they should finish work on this rice so that it will help me to be having plenty rice after planting, because this rice I noticed say with little or no fertilizer I can plant it and have my good harvest, plenty rice after the harvest.
We love the newest rice variety. It is simply different. It requires little or no fertilizer and it brings forth very high yields. This means if I can get the improved seeds to plant, I will spend little money on inputs and make maximum returns on my investment.
The confined field trials for the newest rice in Nigeria have been conducted in line with global best practices. The biosafety authorities have performed several checks on these trials and are impressed with the process.
What we have done so far, what enabled us to give the initial permit for confined field trial is that the gene of INSAD has history of safety. And the source of the gene, of the nitrogen use, water use, efficiency, and also the salt, the sources of those three genes are known to be safe. Our interest is the gene of INSAD for now. But once they are able to get the safety data for us to analyze, it enables us to determine whether these products are safe or not, so that there are no manifestation of new toxins or allergy because of the modification on the rice. And also the rice is not becoming an environmental problem by becoming invasive, displacing other organisms or plants in the environment. Once we are sure that the environmental safety is okay and the food safety is okay, we will now move on to the next level. And what we are not actually too much concerned whether the thing is efficacious or whether it's successful or not. For now, it's an experiment that they want to do, but what we are concerned basically is, for now, this plant must not escape from the environment we have approved it for. It must not it must not pollinate other varieties.
The confined field trials on the newest rice variety is ongoing in Nigeria, and the project's managers are positive the variety will be approved for commercial release soon. They maintain that this rice variety will definitely help boost Nigeria's efforts at attaining self-sufficiency in rice production.